Have you read Sutter Kane? So, first Christmas video. If I'm going to dive into the piss-colored kiddie pool that is themed content on this website, it's going to need to be something really good, something overtly and irredeemably and unmistakably Christmassy, something unashamedly and unabashedly full of holiday spirit, but also with enough of a weird tinge to justify actually spending the next 20 minutes talking about it. And then I remembered that random Rudolph game that was announced a few months back, based on the Rankin Bass television special from the 60s. You know the ones, those weird little stop-motion flicks your mom and dad forced you to watch every year when you were a kid. Yes, indeed, the most unforgivably lame and repugnant of Christmas traditions. But, you want no secret? Come here. Come here. Come here. Come. A little bit closer. A little bit closer. I fucking love the Rankin Bass specials. They are an unstoppable, unforgettable part and pillar of my holiday traditions. As far as I'm concerned, in order for my Christmas to be complete, it goes, let's see, Christmas music, family dinner, and then the Rankin Bass specials. And then after that, there's like the tree and the snow and the presents that I'm probably not going to touch for another 3 years. Now, of course, I approach with expectations tempered. This is, after all, a game mill release, the production equivalent of one of those sneezes that make you pee a little. And it's of a property that I comprise roughly 30% of the audience for, so I'm not expecting some multi-million budget genre-defining classic. But still, they're adapting a well-known property, so they must have some interesting ideas for it, right? Right? It is the curse of loving something that belongs not to you but to the world, that you one day must watch it be defiled, its skin cut from its bones, and worn as a cheap suit by those who wish not to represent its beauty, but simply to siphon a glory that they do not deserve. Okay, so yeah, the game is bad, but the ways in which it's bad are so myriad, so numerous and spectacular and peculiar that the game itself still merits a lot of discussion. The developer on this was Headless Chicken Games, who, according to their website, previously worked with Game Mill on that Nickelodeon Smash Bros. Clone that was popular for like 5 minutes a few years back. Whether this compounds or excuses some of their sins is your choice. Regardless, their studio invoking the image of a headless, panicking thing unable to even scream its agony to the world is a bit on the nose, even by my standards. Now, I do want to make it clear before we get started that despite my colorful language so far, this isn't going to be some YouTuber rage ranting video, or at least that's not what I want it to be. I'm not going to be sitting here and picking apart every little piece of mediocrity or tiny flaw, then waving my hands around saying, oh, this is the worst game that Satan ever made, or oh, this game is a bunch of penis sharts. You know, we're not going to be doing that here. Trust me, the game does not need the hyperbole. Now that said, this title screen is a little uncomfortable. There's a lot of negative space there, and Sam the Snowman seems like he's here under significant threat. Are you okay, Sam? Did they take the kids? Pop the pocket watch twice if you need help. On the file select screen, we can choose between Rudolph and Yukon Cornelius. I choose Yukon, of course, since Mama didn't raise no basic bitch. Our tutorial level is, obviously I suppose, the opening scene of the special, where Sam the Snowman waxes philosophical about life in the North Pole and the travails of a culture based entirely around Christmas. The dialogue is taken word for word from the original, and oh boy, okay. I am a writer by trade, and as such I value language, precision in language, and particularly precision in the language I use to describe things like game mechanics. Those ineffable things that don't really come through in something visual like a video review. How a game feels, how it controls, the moment-to-moment rhythm of actually playing the thing. Rudolph controls like a hate crime. I don't know who or what it's aimed at, but there is a socially unacceptable amount of malice in playing the thing. Rudolph charges at a disturbing speed when he's moved from idling, and while you do build up momentum, the initial launch is so fast you almost immediately lose control of your placement in the environment, and will likely run right past whatever you were aiming for. It's even more disorienting when you take to the air. The jump not only speeds you up even more for a second, but turning becomes immensely more sensitive, making clean landings irritatingly difficult, and making Rudolph the first game I've ever played that somehow feels like the jumping has ice physics. Let's put this on the side for now, don't worry, it'll be back later. Sam teaches us how to move, to pick up gold pieces, the game's standard collectible, and how if you move in one direction for long enough, you'll break out into a run, making this basically a Devil May Cry game. Hope you like this landing sound, because it's the only one you're going to get. Same volume, same pitch, regardless of the surface you're landing on, be it wood, snow, or stone, you get this one sound, without variation, forever. Tutorial completed, we're treated to the story of Rudolph's birth, and right out the gate I want to give the game its one true, unambiguous flower. The voice actors are absolutely killing it. Not in the sense that they're giving grand or dramatic performances, this ain't that type of film, but in that their mimicry of the original voices is near perfect. I genuinely thought they were just using archival audio of Burl Ives for Sam in that opening, and the guy playing Donner here hits that same weird, warbling pitch with his voice, although, in retrospect, he does sound a bit more Jimmy Stewart than the original did.
He's got a shiny nose!
Shiny? I'd even say it glows!
Why, I don't know what's sin against God and Santa me and the wife committed, but you are my curse now, Rudolph, and I shall bear you with dignity. It was actually Santa that broke the illusion, not because the voice wasn't close to the original, maybe a bit throatier, but still quite good. Nah, it was when he started saying things that I know for a fact are not from the original that I figured the voiceover had to be new. And yes, I do know every single line in the special. Move on. Santa introduces you to the major collectibles for the game.
My famous Christmas jingle bells.
And you're finally let out into the level proper to explore. You immediately run into Clarice, who teaches you about charging, the game's rather sparsely used interaction/battle mechanic, as well as ornaments, a more limited collectible that you can gather all 24 of for a reward. You're going to want to practice that dash, by the way. The violent increase in speed makes control even more tenuous than before, as well as the jarring stop and bump into the air that only certain objects or surfaces cause upon collision. However, mastery will grant you valuable speed tech that's basically necessary to pass some of the later game racing side quests. Now remember there, Rudolph, switching combat styles will help you keep your style rating high, letting you earn even more red orbs. Combo variety is key. Eventually you'll reach downtown Christmas Town and get exposed to the full gameplay loop. Each level takes the form of these open environments where you run around and collect enough jingle bells or perform enough specific tasks to unlock the path to the level's endpoint. In the process of playing through these challenges, we learn Rudolph's last few movement options. There's a glide you can use by holding jump that starts out with a fair bit of horizontal momentum, but very quickly loses altitude after a few seconds, and a butt stomp activated by hitting crouch in midair. Oh, now be careful, Rudolph. You seem to have accidentally entered the ancient flesh pits of the Yuletide Empire. Use your combat skills to flee as fast as you can. They like to start with the eyeballs. These Donner bits are for nobody but me at this point. I'm growing too powerful. I have to stop. Anyway, this mission structure seems awfully familiar, doesn't it? By now, you might have forgotten that bit in the title about this being a Super Mario Odyssey clone, or maybe you've just dismissed it at this point as a bit of fanciful linguistic license or just clickbait. No, it really isn't. While Christmas Town is the entry into the true world of playing Rudolph 2025, it's also the moment in which the game shows you its entire soul. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself at this point, oh, what, Dave? Because it involves you running around open environments and picking up some collectibles and jumping from place to place. Ooh, platforming. That suddenly makes it a Mario clone? Please, there's tons of games like that. There are tons and tons of games that are exactly like this. Nothing about this makes it a clone or a ripoff. Does it now? You're led out into an open-level landscape dotted with progress tokens that can be acquired in a variety of ways, running the gamut from being comically out in the open to being hidden on secret paths or behind platforming puzzles, or earned by participating in a challenge assigned to you by a wandering NPC. A smaller collectible that, upon gathering a full set, will also grant you a token, and another one at a recurring shop that you can buy with the smallest scale collectible, in this case the gold pieces. Oh, and speaking of that gold collectible, when you die either by falling or losing all your life, you're immediately resurrected at the last checkpoint, with the only penalty being the loss of 10 coins. I mean gold. You fight the same boss multiple times in different worlds. The pause screen is a map with a checklist of all the tokens on the side. When you get a jingle bell, the screen freezes for a second while a little phrase related to how or where you found it appears. Look, platforming is a large and venerable genre, and of course there is going to be mechanical overlap. This is unavoidable, but you gotta admit, it's in the presentation of these aspects of gameplay that make it pretty damn brazen. I'm surprised that there isn't a part where we get to play as Rudolph's brother, Luigi, and they have to fight the evil Yeti King, Sauber. It's not my best joke, but it gets the point across. So, all the collectibles collected, you're given the option to end the stage after completing the last trial, an offer you accept and the story continues, basically the exact same way the special does. Rudolph gets his first erection at practice and does some wicked sick corkscrews and flips, accidentally revealing his shameful deformity, and instead of stopping the other asshole kids, the only adult in the area says that kid in particular and forbids him from participating in any more after-school activities. And with that, we officially depart from the direct adaptation part of the game. Well, kind of. Events are still going to follow the same broad order as the special, but play out in an almost alternate universe kind of way. For instance, Clarice is with us. Actually, any of these four having known each other before the reindeer games is a canon violation, but Clarice particularly disappears for most of the movie, being almost immediately taken away by her dad, who exclaims to Rudolph, "No daughter of mine is going to be seen with a red-nosed reindeer." And I don't think I've ever heard red-nosed being said with such a hard R before. Anyway, Clarice recommends the gang slide down the mountain to get their spirits back up. Rudolph's game so he can assert his independence. Yukon is hoping there's gold in those hills. And Hermie...
maybe someone needs a dentist.
Hermie needs to chill the fuck out. I don't know what he has to chill out, but something needs chilling. So the wildly unwieldy sliding segment starts, which, as you can tell from the footage, took me by surprise when they basically rail lock you to the mountain path and send you on your way. Fittingly, the momentum problems here are much less noticeable since the game is sort of half-handling acceleration for you, though you can fight it. The real fun is turning or course correction of any kind. Since the game snaps you back onto a forward rail if you turn too far, any accidental push, even in the process of aiming for a collectible, is liable to violently yank you off course, leading to unnecessary deaths which are thankfully mitigated by mid-route checkpoints. It's not the worst thing this time, but oh, just you wait. There's another stage like this much later on. We also get our first fight against the abominable snowman, or the Bumble as Yukon christens him. Yes, our first one. It's basically brain dead, wait until he pounds the ground, pick up a fallen snowball, nail him with it, and charge him while he's dizzy. The only challenge comes from the sometimes eccentric hitboxes of his attacks. So anyway, our next stage begins with the gang on the island of misfit toys, a sort of purgatory for toys that don't fit their intended mold or have weird design choices that make them undesirable. Aha! And here I thought that joyless asshats dictating what one is and isn't allowed to have fun with is more of a modern trend, particularly on the internet. Huh. This stage should be a slam dunk. The Island of Misfit Toys is my favorite scene and song from the special. I am literally the perfect mark for this, and Yet this whole level instead manages to be the diving board from which a below average but not unforgivable budget game will plunge into something far more offensive. See, despite all of the shit that I hath spoken so far, the first area was honestly not some terrible, soul-crushing experience. Oh, it was painfully bland and already tickling the edges of repetition, but I got to run and jump around large open areas with pleasant, if somewhat short, clips of music from the original special played in the background. There are, I suppose, worse things I could be doing. The Island of Misfit Toys changes that completely. While there are indeed large swaths of open land to travel, a not insubstantial amount of the challenges require the navigation of caverns or otherwise compressed areas, caves, cliffs, alleys, small bridges, and we now return to those control issues we put on to the side a ways back because they are here with a vengeance. The erratic speed, imprecise landings, and a newly caffeinated camera all combine to make navigation of anything smaller than a completely open area a bit of a nightmare. You'll overshoot ledges, you'll run off platforms, you'll get hit by boulders you didn't even notice till the last minute, which causes you to make this sound, and fly about 3 counties away. And suddenly that low-frequency hum of irritation begins to assert itself a bit more. And the island's main quest through line certainly doesn't help matters. This time, instead of collecting enough jingle bells to get to the reindeer games, the Charlie in a Box instead charges us with finding some of the other locals, 8 in total, and making them get their ass back to town for a meeting that's supposed to happen. And no, we will not be referring to them as Misfit Dolly or Misfit Train or Misfit Elephant. We will be using their Christian names as said in the original special, thank you very much. That is a dolly for Sue, and you will respect her as such. The next 45 minutes of gameplay is searching out a villager, finding out what banal task they want you to perform, and upon completion they'll give you a bell, and this is the same exact loop as the first area, just guzzied up with the framing device of sending them home. The boat who can't stay afloat is experiencing profound penis envy and so wants you to find something nice in a nearby shipwreck to soothe his ego. The cowboy who rides an ostrich wants a short race. Polka Dot Elephant wants you to clean the snow off his house. The airplane and the train with square wheels on his caboose want to play hide and seek for some reason. The dolly for Sue lost her bouncy balls, etc., etc. They're all common variations of shit you've seen 100 times. I did note a new one where you find the 4 pieces of a jingle bell, which will then unite into a full one. And should I make a Devil May Cry Blue Orb reference or a Mario Galaxy Silver Star reference? Email this webzone to cast your vote. So, your servitude ended, Charlie and the rest of the toys bring you to see King Moonracer, a rad-as-hell lion with wings wearing a crown. He tells the 4 that they can't live on the island since living things are different from toys and can't just hide away from the world, which is an existential tar pit all its own considering his subjects. The stage seems set to end peacefully when, boom, suddenly the Bumble appears again. The following chase is basically one of the bolder stages from the early Crash Bandicoot games, which is fitting since the subsequent boss fight has shades of the Dingodile fight from Warped, requiring that you get around a defensive line of cave rock before you can hit the boss directly. So, can you guess what the next major level, the mountains, has to offer? Why, it's an open area with a collection of mini-challenges, some provided by NPCs, which allow you to earn jingle bells as you make your way to the level's endpoint, in this case the Bumble's Cave, to rescue yours and Clarice's parents. And by this point, we've strayed so far from the canon path, I'm not even bothering mentioning it anymore. Where are you, God? I'm ready. You can end this. Okay, sorry, I promise no over-the-top YouTuber rage ranting, so let's dial it back. The interesting thing about the mountains, at least mechanically, is that 1, it's a much smaller area with a much shorter checklist of tasks, and credit where credit is due, the game does offset this by making those challenges a bit more elaborate, though considering our difficulty level here, it's kind of like the difference between scratching your head and trying to scratch your head and blink at the same time. Bumble Battle 3, easily the hardest it ever be. Dodge the attacks, climb the platforms, stomp on the head. Repeat 3 times. Watch Yukon's Spike get the best of him. Hear Rudolph deliver the best line in the movie.
He's gone!
and it's time to head back to Christmas Town to get ready for the big day. Am I dead yet? Are you dead yet? Have we both always been here and our lives were a mere reprieve for our eternal confinement? I don't know anymore. But what I do know is that we have one final area to play before we could put this monster to rest. And it's the place that our journey was always taking us. Our final destiny. Santa's workshop. Everyone apologizes for their weird lapse into anti-nasal racism. Yukon shows up with a now humble Bumble in tow, and Santa promises not only to put the Misfit Island on the travel agenda, but to allow Hermie to live his dream, pointless as it may be.
Ho ho ho! Do you know nothing, Hermie? We are eternal. We do not suffer the undignified decays of mortal man. Your dentistry is useless to that which has been since the sun came alight, and will continue long after the dark has swallowed the stars. Although maybe you can talk to Foreman Elf over there. Dude looks like he's seen some. Do the tasks, get the jingle bells, though at least the environment is a bit more interesting this time around. The workshop has 3 floors, a small outdoor area, and a roof, and you'll move between all of them to gather the motley collection of supplies for this level's framing device, the departure ceremony. Tools to fix the sleigh, a star for the big tree, and instruments for the local Aussie tribute band. There's bouncing puzzles, a legitimately challenging race that I warned you at the beginning to get ready for, and several varieties of platforming, including platforms that open or close depending on your charge. Yet another whiff of Mario mechanic before this all ends. I'm so goddamn tired of this game, but unfortunately, even with the workshop section finished, and even with Santa having said the thing, there's still one final indignity that this game insists on foisting upon us. Do you remember the sliding level from earlier on? Oh yeah, kids, it's time for a sleigh ride, and shucks howdy was the game saving a real kidney punch for its finale, because this is unacceptably busted. Jesus, okay, how do I even begin to describe this? It's the same conceptually as that first slide level all those many minutes ago, where you're pretty much held to a track moving forward and merely need move Rudolph left or right, but this time you're tethered, sort of, to Santa's sleigh. Look, I refrained from using too much extreme language for the game's other mechanics because I needed to save my credibility for this part. I have no earthly idea how this worked or how it was supposed to work. There appears to be a soft sort of rubber banding effect on Rudolph to keep him in some sort of close proximity to the sleigh, but the tether warps, stretches, and bends violently at random times, which will cause Rudolph's model to slide in different directions depending on the level of band deformity. It straight killed me several times because I'd be about to make a landing on a cliff only for the band to decide, hey, you're too far away, and yank me down or back mid-flight. Also, sometimes holding the jump button seemed to make me ascend infinitely, while other times it functioned as a normal jump. It sincerely felt like the game was trying to rip itself apart, and I was just trying to wrestle the damn thing to the end trigger, which culminated in this massive, I can only say contraction of game control, where the game sent me shooting up way past where I was supposed to be. Or at least I'm assuming so, because that sure looks like I was supposed to be passing through those piles of gold. Luckily, I managed to force the sleigh back down into the last stretch of road so I could pass the last marker and finally end this nightmare. Total length, by the way? 2 hours and 47 minutes. I have never aged so much in so short a time. The fact that the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer game is some sort of shambling, half-dead thing held together by scotch tape and a 6-piece chicken McNugget is not surprising. That it steadily collapses in on itself like a neutron star the longer you play it is not surprising. And yet, despite those truths, I still found myself surprised at almost every turn. At first, I was surprised at how much I didn't hate it, although I'm sure at that point my love of the license was doing a huge amount of heavy lifting. That fondness quickly faded in the face of the increasingly strange and story-breaking liberties they took with events, leaving me naked in the cold with just the game and its mechanics. a prospect that got less and less appealing literally by the minute. Eventually, the game devolves into the worst kind of checklist monotony, magnified by the increasingly spastic and uncomfortable controls and lack of any sort of gameplay variety. Again, this did not have to be some modern classic, but Rudolph is not only a budget title, but one that somehow manages to feel under-budgeted and compromised, which is a new tier of horrible I didn't even know existed. Stay away from it for Christmas. Stay away from it for the holiday season. Just stay away from it. Even ironically, there is nothing here for you but glazed eyes and the gnawing void of the Yuletide spirit. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go slam my head against the wall until I stop hearing that plopping noise. Merry Christmas to all a good night, and have a Happy New Year while you're at it. And that's it for 2025. Also, that was my first focusedly negative video I've done on this channel. I hope it didn't dip too far into, over-the-top negative schlock types. I hope that was at least a little bit somewhat down to earth. Anyway, yeah, I enjoy making these. I will continue to make them for as long as, the financial, societal, and interpersonal woes we all live under make it so that I can no longer sustain it. And hopefully some of you are enjoying them a lot also. And if you enjoyed this, or if you've enjoyed anything else I've made, well, you know what I'm about to ask you to do. The buttons are right there. Click it, and it would be a great help. Anyway, there will be one more video in the year, actually. There will be the Games of 2025. That should be out after Christmas, but before New Year's, obviously. And then there'll be a few weeks break, just to maybe enjoy some semblance of a rest during the greater holiday season, and then we'll be back in the new year. So, take care, everyone, and have a Happy New Year.